Hello and welcome to the Spinning Heart Card Workshop. If we haven't met before, I'm Tony and I can't wait to show you step by step how to make this gorgeous card. So let's get started.
Right, so as I'm using the Brother Scan and Cut to make this particular card, I've opened up my SVG files, all of them, I admit, in the Canvas workspace. And then I've just gone to the layers and I've hidden all the other files that I don't want to cut out yet. And I've just got the card blank showing because that's all we want to do at the moment. So regardless of whether you're using your Cricut or your Silhouette machines or your Scan and Cut, they'll all have this facility under the layers where you've got your little eye and then you can turn the visibility of all your different shapes on and off. And that just saves deleting things and putting them back on and having to re-upload your SVG files. If you're cutting out quite a few little things or you're moving things around, then you can just use the little visibility eyes on there. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to do something a little bit different with this. So I'm going to pop it on the bottom of the mat because I want the bottom poking out so I can do some fiddling with it after we've made our first cut without removing it from the mat. So we've popped it down the bottom, and then what we're going to do is we're going to send it to the machine, but we're going to cut on a very, very low blade. So it doesn't cut all the way through the card because I want to see exactly where it's going to go on the mat. Now there's a reason for this, and I'm going to show you what it is in just one moment. So I'm just going to go and send this over to my cutting machine. So whatever the operation is on the system you're using, go ahead and do that. And I will send this over to mine.
So I've popped my card down onto my mat. So we're just going to load that into the machine. And then what we're going to do with the blade housing is we're just going to pop the level down to number 1. So again, this will be different just depending on what machine you're using. And then we're going to press OK and cut. And then that's just going to tell me exactly where the card's going to be. Exactly where the cut even is going to be on the piece of card. And then we can apply our sticky roll where we want it without removing the piece of card from the mat. And then when that's in place, we'll cut the piece of card out at full depth and we'll have our card blank ready. So to cover the front of the card blank in sticky roll, we obviously need some sticky roll. So what we're going to do is just cut out a section slightly larger than the front of the card's going to be. So we know the card blank is 5 3/4 inches. So if we do around about 6 inches squared of sticky roll, so that is around 16, 5, 10, 15, around 16 of the squares on our cutting mat. If we stick to around that, so 5, 10, 15, 16, just cut it out freehand with your knife. And it really doesn't matter if it's a bit wobbly as long as we keep one side straight. And that will be the fold of our card. So 5, 10, 15, 16. See, we're oversizing it. So it really doesn't matter as long as we remember the perfectly straight edge. So we'll just move this over to our cutting machine again. So we're back to the cutting machine and we haven't unloaded the mat. Now I know you can't see it, but I've cut just into the very top layer of the card blank and the heart aperture. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark the 5 3/4 of an inch just into where the card is. So I'll just do that on the top part as well, and that's just where the fold's going to go. So when we cut that out, it'll be where we score it. So now we're going to take our piece of sticky roll, and the edge that we know is completely straight, we're just going to give it a little curve, and we're going to pop that straight down onto the card on the marks that we've just placed on there where the fold is going to be. We're just going to burnish that down gently with our finger, because obviously the mat is still in the machine. Now, don't worry about that overlap at the moment. And then I'm going to just take the blade out of its housing and pop it. It's very thick card. It's 330 GSM, this card. So I think I'm probably going to pop that up to 7. And that's because there's also, not only is it very thick card, it's also got the sticky roll on top, and we want it to go through. But if it doesn't go through on the first time, then obviously we'll have the second time to cut it. So I'll just run that through the machine now. So we'll just see if that's cut through properly. Oh, perfect. So we can release that from the machine. Oh, I probably actually could have done with one more run through, but that will be easy to just take the craft knife through that slit there and release it properly. So I've just snipped away the card blank from the 12 by 12 piece of cardstock, and we're just going to run our knife gently down the cut line where it didn't quite cut properly. So that's the beauty when you have straight lines, is it's easy to do. So what I should have done is probably run it through the machine twice instead of taking it to chance. So I'm just going to burnish where the sticky roll was. So where we made the 2 marks, we're just going to score there. So we've got a fold on our card. Now I have to admit, I do prefer to use a scoreboard when I'm folding cards, because it just makes everything so much neater and so much more precise. So we're just going to make sure I'm not crossing my grids here. And it matches up, so number 4 up to there. Haven't we all done that before? And ended up with a wonky card blank. There we go, just run the tool down the groove. Just fold that gently over on itself. And then use our bone folder to create the perfect crease. So the edge isn't covered with sticky roll, and I am aware that we've got a slight overlap there, but I am going to trim that off. The perfectionist. There we go. So just line it up there. And there we go. That's just perfect. I have to say, like with what just happened there with it overlapping slightly, I do prefer it when something doesn't go quite to plan when we're doing these tutorials, because that way I can show you how I fix it. Because whose projects ever go completely to plan? Let's be honest about that. Right, so what are we doing next? Next, we are going to cut the hearts that are going to go in the middle and the sentiments. So let's move on to cutting out the hearts that are going to go in the middle of our aperture.
So as you can see, we're back on our workspace on our computer. So we've still got the card blank up. We don't need that anymore because we've cut that out. So we're just going to hide that. And then we need to find the hearts that we want. So I might as well bring them all up so that I know that we've got the right ones. So there they are. So we are going to cut large hearts into card covered with sticky roll. And then we're going to cut the two smaller hearts into normal card that's covered with nothing. And then the two dinky little hearts, I think we're just going to cut those out of some nice red card. So just for now, we're going to hide those. So there we go. And we'll probably do those. Oh, actually, no, I will do them now. So we can put some red card on here when we cut the other two sizes of hearts out. So I'll just pop those in the middle. So the really good thing about the Scan and Cut is that it has a scanner, so I can put 3 different types of card on, and we'll run it through the scanner, and then we'll be able to place our hearts exactly where we want them without going over the side of the card and making a mess of it. So we won't do the sentiments quite yet because we're going to cut those out of vinyl, and we're going to leave the stencil for a different cut as well. So let's just send the hearts over to the machine, and we'll get ready setting our mat up.
So the shapes that we put into the design software shows that they're going to take up around about 4 by 7 inches for the larger hearts and about 6 by 4 inches for the smaller hearts, and then about 2 by 2 inches for the little dinky hearts that we're going to cut out in red. So obviously we want to go bigger than that because we want a little bit of grace with our cards. So I've cut them out at about 6 by 8 for the larger hearts and about 7 by 5 inches for the smaller hearts. And then we're just going to cut out a nice little section for our smaller hearts. So we are putting sticky roll on the red piece of card and on the largest piece of card, and the middle-sized piece of card we're leaving well alone for now. So I'll just move these to the side. Now, the easiest way to apply sticky roll to your card is to simply unwind your roll. So every roll has its own resting point. Pop it down on your mat and it should lie nice and flat. And you shouldn't need any extra hands to hold onto the roll. So like I said, we're going to pop the card straight down onto the sticky roll. And then with the smaller piece of red card, we're going to pop that straight down as well. And then we're just going to cut around that using a knife or a pair of scissors. Okay. Just trim the excess off. So these bits here, they can go, stick them straight back onto the roll, because you can guarantee us crafters will find a use for those bits. There you go. I'm going to just pop that down there as well. Now, if you'd rather use scissors to cut it out, because not everybody likes knives, let's be fair, if you just cut just inside the card, then it just saves your scissors sticking to the sticky roll. Now, if any gets stuck on your scissors, it does come off. A little bit of white spirit or surgical spirit on your scissors will clean it right off. But as I see it, life's far too short to be cleaning scissors all the time. So I just roll that back up. Now, the key to using sticky roll on your card is to give it a good burnish. And this actually helps you release the liner when it comes time to either decorating it or sticking stuff down. So both of these pieces, because we haven't converted the mat, we're going to need to place the uncovered side down onto the mat so that the sticky roll covered side is facing up. Now, because these are basic shapes, that's going to be absolutely fine. They're not going to need to be mirrored at all. And the reason we need to go face down with them and the sticky roll side facing up is because the liner on the sticky roll is non-stick. So if you try and apply it to your cutting mat, it's not going to stay in place. There is a way around that, which I have discovered. But if you want to know about that one, there is a video on my YouTube channel which you'll be able to find detailing exactly how to convert your mat. So anything covered in sticky roll will stay firmly in place on your mat and not wiggle around at all. So we're just going to get our mat here. So I'll just pop this one down. And mine's quite an old mat, so I've just popped a bit of spray adhesive on there. And then this doesn't matter because it's got no sticky roll on it at all. So just rub those down. And then we'll pop a piece of red card around there somewhere. There we go. And then I'm just going to pop this into the cutting machine. So we'll nip back over there. Right, so here we go. I'm just going to load the mat back in. And then I'm just going to run it through the scanner so I can place everything exactly where it needs to be. And just so you can completely see what I'm doing. And that will run through our machine. And I don't want to take any chances of it not cutting through properly this time, so I'm just going to run it through again and make sure we get a beautiful clean cut on each one. There we go. There's those ones. There's those ones. Hey, and there's those ones. So we'll just whip out the mat and we'll pop back over to the cutting mat. So here we are. We've got the two larger hearts covered in sticky roll and the two smaller hearts, which is just plain card, and our two dinky little hearts, which we've got the sticky roll on the back. So we're just going to pop those to the side for now because we don't need those as yet. And we're going to concentrate on assembling these. Now this is the fun bit because this is where we get to start decorating. So we're going to do one at a time. So we need to peel away the liner from the sticky roll. So I find the easiest way to do this is to take a knife or a pin and just nick the liner, and it seems to lift it beautifully. So if you just give it a little bit of a burnish where you're going to lift it. So it is easier when you're doing this to start with less intricate shapes, with more solid shapes like this. And get a little bit of practice and you'll be rocking and rolling in no time. It's one of those things, a bit like riding a bike. Once you've done it a few times, you'll be an absolute expert. So now it's all nice and sticky. We just need to take our smaller heart and just line it up in the middle. And just place it straight down onto the sticky roll, so you don't need to burnish it too much. And then we're going to do exactly the same with the other shape, the other heart. So just lift off the liner. There we go. And again, take the smaller heart and line it up over the top and pop it down. There we go. So now we need our first colour of glitter, which is our red, and a nice piece of paper to catch the glitter. So we might as well do these at the same time. So literally just pour it all over the exposed areas. So be nice and liberal, because most of this is going to go back in the pot, so don't worry about putting it all over the place. Now with the glitter you just need to press and rub. So I press it all in first, all over, and then literally just rub it in. And then this will coat absolutely beautifully. Now I use ultra fine, but that's just personal preference. And sticky roll will hold any type of glitter you've got in your cupboard. So you don't have to go out getting a whole new load of glitters if you've already got a pile in the cupboard. There we go. So, and sticky roll is amazing. It will hold anything that you would normally stick down with wet glue. So give it a good tap. If there's any areas you're not happy with the coverage, just literally go straight back in like so. And now you just get a good brush. So I tend to use one of my glitter brushes, and it's just a good firm brush. So any old brush will do. Don't go using your beautiful blending brushes, because you don't want those getting full up with glitter. There we go, give that a tap. So, and then a little pinch around the edges, so that's covered beautifully. So I always give them a good tap, and then a brush, and then it just gets off any excess glitter, because you don't want people to open their card and glitter pour all over them. And then the sticky roll does hold on to it really very well. And then I'm just going to pop this back in the pot. So if you've got a bit of glitter hanging around like this and you're being a little bit lazy like I am, just get a bit of scrap sticky roll, and you can give your mat a wee clean and get up any of the excess glitter that's on your mat. And if you really want to, you can create some really nice little effects just by picking up waste glitter. And now we have two gorgeous glittered cards. See, that was really easy, wasn't it? And so now we need to move on to the sentiments that are going to be in the middle of those hearts. So back to our design space.
So back to our workspace. So we don't need those anymore. So we're going to hide those. So we're going to be cutting the sentiments out of vinyl. Now, if you don't have any vinyl, you could either use stamps or some peel-offs, or if you've got some die-cut letters, you could pop those through with sticky roll on the back so that you could peel off the liner and you'd have some self-adhesive sentiments. Or you can use these on some thin card covered with sticky roll. And again, just peel off the liner and you'll have some sentiments that you cut yourself with card. But because these are quite thin and quite intricate words, I decided that it would probably be better to cut these out on vinyl. So we're going to go with the bottom one. So I thought people would like to have a choice between the very fancy pants script and the nice brush script. So we're going to go with the nice fancy one because that's my favourite. So I'll have that ready for the vinyl. And then I'm also going to bring in the stencil shape. And I'm going to send them over to the machine together at the same time. There we go. So that's that done. So now we just need to prepare the mat.
So here's the piece of vinyl I've cut out for the sentiments. So that's about 3 inches by 4 inches. So that's around about the space that the sentiments were taking up on the mat, with a little bit of extra around the edge, because we always want that just to make sure that we're getting it in the right place. Now, to cut out the stencil, I'm going to use some release paper. So I would either use release paper or stencil sheet to do that. Now, the difference between release paper and stencil sheets is the stencil sheets are made of far thicker material and they are double-sided, so they've got the non-stick coating on both sides of the sheets, whereas the release paper, it has one side that's matte and the other side is non-stick. So the only reason I am using the release paper is because it only has the non-stick on one side, so I can use the same mat as I'm using for the vinyl, and I haven't converted that mat. So if I had both sides of the sheet that were non-stick, it wouldn't stay in place on the mat. So the stencil is about 6 by 6 inches, so we need to cut around about 7 by 7 so that we've got space around the edges. So we'll just mark out approximately 7 inches. There we go. And even though the release paper is a thinner material than the stencil sheets, it can be used over and over again. So it's not a one-use product when you're using it with sticky roll. So let's just pop these onto the mat. So obviously the shiny side facing up, because the shiny side is the non-stick side. I'll give that a burnish. And that only needs a low blade depth on your machine, much like the vinyl. I'll just pop that on there too. And we'll pop this over to the machine. So here we are at the machine again. So just pop this in. And make sure we remember to lower the blade depth, because I have been caught out by that one before. So obviously it's going to need to be on number 1 or whatever depth your machine likes to cut vinyl at. I mean, obviously every machine is different, not just the brand, but every physical machine, whether it's the same brand or not. So you always have to test your blade depths on different materials. So I'm just going to start the machine off. So I've only got it on blade depth number 1 on this, and I'm just going to let it cut the release paper and see if it cuts all the way through, because I do think that the release paper is a little bit thicker than it's going to be to cut the vinyl, but you don't know, so we'll test it and see, and if we have to cut it again, then we have to cut it again. But that's the beauty of digital cutting machines, it's not you doing it. So we'll see how it gets on and have a look in a moment. Right, so while we've still got the mat in place, I'm just going to have a little look and make sure it's cut the release paper well. Oh, that looks good. Now if we just pop a couple of the hearts out just to make doubly sure. Right. No, that's come out just fine. Oh, should we give it the big risk? So obviously if you're not sure when you're doing this, there we go, it's absolutely fine. Now if you don't have any release paper at home and you want to do this, if you have got a sticky roll, you can save some of the release paper. See, that's cut absolutely beautifully, hasn't it? And we're back at the mat. And as I was saying, if you don't have any release paper or stencil sheets at home, either wait until you have some big leftover bits of release paper from sticky roll. I mean, obviously that's not going to do the job. But if you are die cutting some larger shapes and you peel away the liner, keep those big bits because you can use them for masks and stencils. Or if you work in an office or you know someone that works in an office and they have sheets of labels, get them to keep the release paper from label sheets because that's the same surface as release paper. It has a non-stick side. And we can use that to create masks and stencils for our sticky roll. So I think what we'll do next is use our mask to decorate the front of our card. So again, we need to take the liner off the sticky roll. Just by nicking the corner. So this would have been a perfect piece of liner to keep if it didn't have a big heart aperture in the middle. So we just peel that away. So we don't want to bend the card blank, so we just need to follow the liner around. So don't worry if you get your fingers on the sticky surface, it's not going to diminish the stick in any way. And if you really don't want to glitter the whole front of the card, you could always use a piece of thin card to create the stencil, pop it down on the card and just ink through it, and then you'll still have the beautiful heart pattern on the front of your card. It just won't be glittery. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to just use the grid lines on here, and we're going to take our release paper stencil. Now it's shiny side up, make sure it is shiny side down. And then we're just going to line up the heart over. So I've designed it so the middle little hole and heart should correspond directly with this. So you just need to follow the grid lines. And then of course the stencil is bigger than the card itself, so you can just see through it. And you should be able to line it up. So I want it just a little bit higher. Just there. Right, you can't see because of the light, but I'll show you. Right, so just smooth that down onto the card. Now you can just see there, you can just see through the card. If I just pop that behind it, it is slightly transparent, so I can see the edges of the card, so it does make it easier for me to line it up onto the card blank. So again, we just go over that and give it a burnish. So again, if you didn't want the whole thing glittery, you could still have the sticky raw base underneath and have cut the stencil out of thin card, popped it over the top like this, put glitter in the middle, so you just literally have glittered hearts, and then trimmed around the edges. That is also an option. See, I'm having too many good ideas all at once. We need to stick to the matter in hand, which is decorating the front of this gorgeous card blank. So again, we are using our bit of folded scrap paper, and again we're just going to liberally pour glitter all over the front. So we don't need to go so much in the middle because there's no sticky roll there. Bang it all on. Again, don't be worried, it's all going back in the pot, well, most of it. So give it a good tap and a good rub. There we go. So really work it into all the holes and all the hearts. There we go. So the other benefit of release papers only being one-sided is that this side doesn't end up with a lot of glitter stuck to it with the static. So we'll just brush this off. And then I'm sure there'll be a big pile of glitter in the middle of the card because we've moved it. So we'll just, there we go. But it does look pretty. There, so just brush that out. So obviously this will be given a good clean before we give it to anybody. So I'll just pop this all back in the pot. And as you can see, we are saving loads of it. So obviously I will put all that back in the pot properly in a moment. Now I won't bother cleaning that up too well quite yet. And at this point, get yourself a fresh folded piece of scrap paper just to put to the side for one moment. So what we need to do first is get rid of a bit more of this. And then we need to peel the card from the stencil. So I tend to do this upside down with the stencil at the bottom when I'm using glitter, and that's just because I want to try and keep as much of the base colour of the glitter away from the sticky roll. So now we've done that, we can pop this down onto our new sheet. And then I think I'm actually going to put just another piece of paper in there, just because we are using the beautiful white glitter and I don't want to risk contaminating the uncovered area of sticky roll too much. So I'm running a little bit low in this pot. I've been using all the white over Christmas. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but where are all the hearts gone? But all become clear in a moment. So we just, again, we tap, 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 tap it all over, and then we rub. And where the hearts are, they won't move because they're well adhered into the sticky roll. Right, so if you do get a little bit upset if your white glitter gets contaminated by other colours of glitter, then I would definitely suggest having a fresh pot to decant this into, because there will be some specks that contaminate the white glitter. So sometimes I mind and sometimes I don't. Depends what mood I'm in, really. So there we go. So I'll just pop that onto there. And like I said, there's not a lot left of this white glitter anyway. But if you want to preserve the beauty of your white glitter, then yes, I'd get a different pot to decant it in. So now that's covered. So if you do feel any bits that you're not happy with, and that is absolutely fine, literally you just go back over it and coat that area that you're not happy with. So then we definitely need to get a brush, and as you can see, give it a little bit of a brush and the red really starts to pop through as you just brush the excess white from off the top of the red hearts. There we go. See, there's just no way we would be able to achieve this with a wet glue. So there we go. So all that lovely white glitter that you're probably struggling to see goes straight back in the pot. There we go. And lids on before I definitely cause chaos. And there we have our gorgeous card. So just turn the autofocus off, or the autofocus on, just see if I can get nice and close so you can really see the shine and the texture on there. So I've used ultra fine glitter, but that's just my personal preference. Like I said, all glitters will work perfectly well with sticky roll. And now I think we need to move on to our vinyl sentiments after I've had a little clear up. So just before we do start with our vinyl sentiment, I just wanted to give you a little tip on cleaning the glitter off the release paper or stencil sheets if that's what you've used. So I find that I know a good bit of sticky roll does the trick perfectly. So I just tear off a bit, or if I've got a little bit hanging around that I've cut off a bigger piece that I was working on, if you just rub it over the shiny side of the stencil, then it will pick up the glitter absolutely no problem and clean it nicely for you. There you go. And again, the same goes for your mat. So there we go. Easy peasy. And now on to our vinyl sentiment. So we just need to lift up the vinyl from off here, the liner. So, oh, there, I will leave that on there because that could be used for a different project. There we go. So we just need to weed out the bits of vinyl within the letters. So we'll do that quickly. There we go. I think that's it. Yes, that's it. So now what we need to do is use just a little bit of transfer roll just to lift the sentiment up, and then we can pop those down onto our hearts, and then we can get on with assembling our heart. Right, so here is your transfer roll. So we just need to cut off the piece that we need. So we don't want to go too big because we're going to be doing these one at a time. So we'll just cut out around about that. So with your transfer roll, don't think it's just for picking up vinyl letters. It can be used for a lot more than that. But I think I need to leave it there because I'm just going to start confusing you. So we're just going to pop this down onto the first word and then give it a really good burnish so it picks up the letters. And then, oh, it's leaving the one liner on there. I must have cut a little bit too deep. There we go. Look at that. That's perfect. I love it when it comes off perfectly like that. So we're just going to use, again, the grid lines on here just so that they line up on the same line, so that when it's spinning it has some cohesion. Right, there we go. I just pop that down like that. A burnish. Make sure the letters stay where they're meant to. of course we can use that same piece for our second word. So again, give that a good burnish. So if you have trouble lining up your sentiments or your vinyl, have a look at the sticky roll board video on my YouTube, and that will give you some good ideas on what you can use to get everything lined up. Right, so that was around about there, wasn't it? So we want this to just come down, so the line going that way is just at the point that the heart meets itself, and then we need to follow this line along. Very technical, I know. There we go. So again, burnish that down and lift the transfer roll, and then this goes back on the roll because you'll be able to use it again another time. So obviously each piece doesn't last forever, but we'll keep using it until it runs out of stick. Right, and there we go. Love you. So now we need to join these two together with a piece of cotton so that we can make them spin. Right, so we need to get our card blank back out. I don't know why I keep calling it a card blank now. I think it is far beyond a blank looking like that. So what we need to do is just make sure you can see the cotton here. Is I go way above and beyond what I need, and then I double it over on itself, just so we've got a good amount to play with. Because the last thing we want is to make it too short, and then when we're putting it in the centre of the card, for there not to be enough when we've already stuck it all together and we've assembled it all. So we don't want that to happen. So give yourself a good amount to make mistakes with. That's what I always think. Right, so we've got a good amount there. So any little bits of glitter just hanging around those because I haven't quite cleaned my mat as properly as I should. There we go. So just get rid of that glitter there. So what we can use for this is some sticky roll. So if you just, either a piece again that is just a cut off, just keep those bits by sticking them onto the roll, and you will find use for them, trust me. So we're just going to pop this down, just a little bit that off so it fits beautifully in the middle. And then obviously we don't want it overlapping the edges, so just cut that bit off there. There we go. Give that a burnish. And we're just going to do the same on here, but we don't need to be quite so precise. There we go. And then here's that piece that we had earlier. So we're just going to pop that down on there as well. So I know this might look a little bit skin flinty, but it uses up all the bits. There we go. So just burnish those down. Then we are going to again use the grid lines on the cutting mat. We're just going to remove the liner from the sticky roll. There we go. So again, you can use finger lift tape or red liner tape, but I think red liner tape is probably a little bit thicker, so they would be a little bit of a lump in the middle, whereas finger lift tape or sticky roll, it's very thin, so it lies flush with the card. So take your piece of cotton, give it a little twist, and just lie it along the grid lines down the centre of your heart. So if it moves, don't worry. And then just press it down into the sticky roll. There you go, and that should hold nicely. Then, just to make sure it's extra secure, that's why I like to put a piece of sticky roll onto the other heart. So those 2 extra bits we put on there, just to show you because of the light. So there is a piece just, let's get you a better view here. It's hard white on white, isn't it? So you've got the sticky roll piece there, one down the centre, and then one just at the side there. And then that will hold the whole thing together. And then there's one just in the centre of this heart, just to give the string some extra security. Because if you have a house like mine, there are usually little fingers around that like to give things an extra test of how durable they are. Then we're just going to line that up and pop it straight down onto the other one. So I'll give that a press. And there we have our beautiful spinning heart. Isn't that gorgeous? Right, so you may have noticed that the edges are white. It's because we used a lovely white card. So to get around this, all we need to do is take a pen and just go around the edges. Then there won't be any naughty white bits showing. So if this does not bother you like it does me, then don't worry about this part. But it bothers me, so this is what I'm going to do. So there we go. It might have been a slightly better idea to do this before I joined them 2 together. But that's fine. We just have to be careful not to get the string, not to get the cotton. There we go. Just I haven't quite lined it up properly there. There we go. Perfect. So I think that looks gorgeous. So now we come back to our card base, I'm going to call it. And we need to attach the spinning heart to the base. So this is where our dinky little hearts that we cut earlier come in. So we just need to open up our card base. As I said, we do need to make sure that we've given this a little bit more of a clean before we give it to our beloved. Right, so we're just going to again line up the card base on the grid lines. So just use something like your bone folder just to hold it flat. Then we just need to peel the liner off the small hearts. So again, just little nicking actions. That will release the liner. There we are, there's the first one, so I'll just pop that there for a moment. Burnish the edge that you're peeling away if you're struggling a little. It really does make all the difference. There we go. So just again pop that over here. I tend to try and find where it sits naturally. And there we go. So just line it up in the center of the aperture. So I tend to put the top one down first. So just pull it straight. And then these are dinky little hearts. So I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers. So there we go. So just pop that down on there, possibly slightly straighter than I've just managed. There we go. Oh, that's fine actually, isn't it? That's perfect. Then keeping this lined up on the grids because we don't want it going wobbly. So just take your cotton. So I like to give it a little twist just so it spins nicely. And then just pull that nice and taut. Along the bottom. And then just pop your heart down on top of the cotton. That will hold it nicely in place. And then we just snip the excess away. And there we have absolutely gorgeous spinning card.
I really hope you enjoyed the workshop. It's one of my favourite cards to make, so I hope you're leaving with a beautiful card of your own. If you've got any questions, or if you'd even like to send me a picture of your own take on the spinning heart card, then I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Thanks again for coming, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!